Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you were new here, hi, how are you? If you are coming back, thank you so much for coming back. I just want to let you know that all of my socials are in the description, my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Redbubble, and now Patreon if you would like to support this channel. Also, I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications if you want to see more LGBTQ plus content from this space right here. So let's get into the video. So today I'm going to be reacting to Can LGBTQ plus and Christians See Eye to Eye from Jubilee. I love reacting to Jubilee's stuff and I definitely want to do more in the future, and I think it's a really interesting conversation to have within the two communities. I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or a lot of people know us as Mormons, and struggling with my sexuality and gender while learning about the religion that I grew up in and how they conflicted with each other. It's just really an interesting conversation that I wanted to have. Let's get into the video.
Okay, so today I'm going to be reacting to Jubilee's Can LGBTQ plus and Christians See Eye to Eye. I'm super excited about this. For those of you who don't know, I grew up in a Mormon household, which is a version of Christianity. I love talking about queer stuff and religion, especially because honestly, this past month has just brought up a lot of like religious and like family trauma that I didn't know that I needed to talk about or get over, but here it is. And I figured why not start the new year talking about this kind of stuff. So let's get into it.
This is a physical manifestation of love. This is glorious and beautiful, and any God which denies me for this, I don't want to have a part of.
Yes, I 100% already agree with this man.
On the left-hand side, can I have my LGBT folks? On the right-hand side, can I have my conservatives?
I feel like you can kind of, yeah, you can tell.
There are times when I feel uncomfortable expressing my views around sexuality.
I get uncomfortable.
So I'm gonna play along with this. There are definitely situations where I don't feel comfortable expressing my sexuality or my gender identity because I just am not sure how the reaction is going to be or if I'm going to get respected. So I definitely think I would have gone up for that question because just you never know. I try to make sure that I'm in safe spaces as much as possible, and you never know if you're in a safe space or not.
Comfortable primarily because the bromance of like, well, there's two girls, who's the boy? And then it really just breaks the ice as it's like, there isn't supposed to be a boy. That's why we're there. I do my best to break the ice with the comedic deflection, which I've learned is a self-defense mechanism, right? So.
I come from a very conservative community, and so, you know, it just wasn't talked about.
Yes.
The people I've had the most conversation with about are actually my family, which is really weird because I came out to my parents because my dad was going to be leading the protests at the Pride Festival that my boyfriend wanted me to go to.
Oh my gosh. Going off of what this guy has said, when it comes to having conversations with your family and that kind of stuff, I definitely feel like the person that I've had the most conversations with that kind of stuff would be my mom. I don't really talk to my brother or my sister-in-law because they are super, super conservative, super religious, and I know that I will never be able to change their perception of me, and I don't want to hear, oh, I love you, I just don't love this part of you. You know what I mean? Which I personally think is very unchristlike. I will never understand Christians who say that they have like the love of God or that they're following Christ and not love people in the community because you're not actually loving that person.
So,
I'm a pastor as well. I'm also a community leader in Boyle Heights, and in that community there's a large LGBTQ presence, so there's that fear of really coming out and say what I believe, because I do love everybody and I don't want to be pushed to the side just because I have a certain feeling about, you know, any topic really.
Okay, but like if you're outside of the community, why do you have an opinion? I'm sorry, if that sounded really rude, I apologize, but why?
You know, it's not the beliefs that sometimes I have a problem with, or I think people have a problem with in general. It's just like the actions from the beliefs. So like, it's okay to have beliefs, but if we like can be loving in our beliefs and, you know, how our actions come from those beliefs. And like, I love that we're having this conversation, you know, like trying to breach those, like build a bridge.
I think that's my biggest problem with religious organizations, especially organized religion. And when I'm talking about that, I'm mostly talking about westernized Catholicism, Christians, that kind of stuff, is that they'll say they love you and then their actions completely do the opposite of what they're saying. And like I was saying before, I think it's just very against what Christ would want or what he preached, or at the very least what the Bible says. And the fact that so many people base their beliefs on something that was rewritten and rewritten and rewritten for 2,000 years is it's a bit much for me.
Some sins are worse than others.
Everyone loves to gatekeep. Yep.
In the eyes of, you know, of the God I worship, I believe that any sin separates us from Him because He's holy and pure. But at the same time, I think there are certain sins that will have greater consequences.
Yeah, I resonate with that. For me, it would be, you know, killing another human is the worst.
100%.
That's it. Also, it Venn diagrams into abortion. Taking the life of another is huge. Is huge.
Can I ask you two this? Do you all see homosexuality as a sin?
Yes.
And if so, where on that scale?
I don't think a homosexual tendency or an attraction to somebody of the same gender is a sin. I think that's a natural feeling. I think when you start engaging in a lifestyle and you act upon that.
So does that mean that heterosexuality is a lifestyle? Like, this is the kind of arguments that I normally don't understand.
That tendency, then because it goes against what I believe God designed, then I think that's clearly a sin.
I just don't believe in sin because I feel that sometimes being punitive about things can like make you repress things, and like instinctually I was like, but not acting on them would be a sin. Like that's how it feels for me, like being dishonest to myself, that feels wrong.
At some point in my life, I was taught that sex is wrong.
Yes. Well, so a really big thing in Mormonism is the concept of family and being family together forever, all that kind of stuff. And making sure that you save yourself for marriage is so heavily pushed in the Mormon religion, in the religion that I grew up in. It's insane. It was definitely one of the hardest things for me to break. There is nothing wrong with two consenting adults doing whatever they do as long as they're not hurting each other. You know what I mean? But because it's just so ingrained in your head as a kid, starting as like young as like 7 or 8, like don't do things until you're married, like there's a lot of guilt that comes around that. And even being on the asexual spectrum, I still have really not great views of sex because of the religion that I grew up in. Like I still have a lot of like, oh, if I don't have sex with my partner, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna leave me, they're not gonna feel like I love them, because it was just so ingrained. Like purity culture is probably a whole other topic that I could talk about, because it seeps in from such a young age that you don't even realize how bad your views around the topic are.
I guess like within the context, you know, sex is bad outside the context of marriage. And so I guess that's how I identified with the question.
I had a very strong religious upbringing, and I ended up doing a lot of self-harm.
Yep.
And I ended up doing a lot of things just to try and cope with these urges that when I finally gave into them. I don't know how much longer I'll be on. This is a physical manifestation of love. This is glorious and beautiful, and any God which denies me for this, I don't want to have a part of.
Yep.
Because whatever this is I know for a fact to be a truth, because it is the nature of love.
Yeah, just responding to your story, it makes me sad to hear that that you decided to hurt yourself.
But it was the teaching
yeah,
that were
I
taught
still
to him
hold
that
on to
made him feel
what
like it
I
was
believe are my
necessary to
beliefs, but
hurt himself.
at the same time, I wish there was a better way for you to talk to someone and to process and to think through reconciling how you feel with like what you may have been taught or have read through scripture.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I think there's a lot of cultural baggage, I think, around Christianity that isn't necessarily inherently part of any biblical Christianity.
Yep. I mean, because if you think about it, biblical Christianity is so much, like, it's completely different than modern Christianity.
Even though I grew up in a Christian family, I don't recall ever being told that sex was wrong or it was a bad thing. I think I grew up with the understanding that sex is a beautiful thing. It was given to us as a gift to enjoy. There's a place where it's been designed for, a place where we can enjoy it, and there's a place where it's detestable in the sight of the Creator,
detestable?
the one who gave it to us.
I just don't like the idea that anything's really detestable, you know what I mean? So I just don't.
But wouldn't you
things
say
that
that
are
even
detestable.
sex for you within certain contexts is detestable? Right? Like if it's
No, 'cause I don't-
non-consensual, like that's pretty
Yeah,
detestable.
Yeah,
right?
agreed.
So even
but
in that
the things that I
context.
consent to are, I think, not like that. I have sometimes no control over if it's non-consensual.
People should honor the pronouns others wish to be called.
Yes.
Oh, hesitation's enough.
Why?
I'm all for this. Like, I identify as they. People don't consider it, and I think that like having these conversations about how people want to identify is like really important in a way that we can move things forward and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear what they want to, like, their rebuttal for this. Because, like I said, if you read the Bible, love your neighbor. If your neighbor is trans, non-binary, fucking respect that shit.
Yeah, if you're gonna like, hey, if you don't use whatever, you're gonna get fined or whatever, like that's, I'm not a big fan of that.
These are conversations between us, though,
but
right?
like,
yeah.
But otherwise, it's just being respectful.
There we go.
Oh, the pronoun police.
respectful.
So for me, I never correct people because many times people do confuse me as sir. I don't, it doesn't faze me. However, I'm born in a female body, I'm a she. There are times where my girlfriends have said, oh, my boyfriend is and that, just because of their comfort zone, they don't want to have to deal with the whole like social stigma.
So you're comfortable with them presenting you as a male?
It doesn't faze me.
Really?
It doesn't faze me.
Honestly, I'm surprised this person doesn't identify as non-binary. Whatever. There's such a conversation around lesbianism and mask lesbians that I would need to know a whole lot more about, but it's really interesting to me that she didn't come up.
Me at all because my identity and my expressions are masculine, and I've come to the terms and the realization that I don't need to chop up my body into different pieces to fit in the social little box that is man.
Okay, I don't want to generalize, but I don't think a lot of cis people understand how traumatizing and how much it hurts being in a body that you just don't connect to. Like, just because you don't experience something doesn't mean that another person doesn't experience that, and chopping up your body the way that she just put it can literally saves trans people.
If you want to address me, you can address me as he or she or them or girl Becky with the good hair or Beck.
Yeah.
It doesn't, as long as the term is respectful,
Yeah.
I will take it.
I mean, I stood back just because it's a complicated topic, because with language is powerful, and so when somebody who I would consider female wants to be called a male, I would want to probably respect that, but I still firmly believe that, they're, like, God created there to be man and a woman, and I would like to sit down and talk to that person in depth before leaning one way or the other. Yeah.
But I think like focusing more on like building a relationship instead of just like grilling someone, why do you feel, you know what I mean? Like just trying
What's
to
wrong with you? Like why?
Yeah, like let me sit down.
Just dissect you like
so you are the pronoun police.
America is heading in the right direction when it comes to inclusion and diversity?
For me, it's more like the youth are headed in like inclusion and diversity, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's the institutions of power. I think the youth are really moving our culture forward, and like it's encouraging to see.
Now, I can't imagine what it's like to not be able to be who I am and having to hide. So I think it's good in that sense that people finally are living in a world where I can be who I am and I don't have to be ostracized and I can be included. And the reason why I didn't step in is because, you know, I have certain values that I think are from God. And so that's why I hesitated a little bit on, do I come forward or not?
Well, and I have a question, because I'm curious where the sanctity of your marriage comes in. Like, if you can only get married to a woman because you and God and that woman have a relationship that is perfect for you, I'm curious how that affects who we can marry.
Yeah. I don't think the job of a Christian, for example, is to get people to behave in a certain moral way that's in line with what the Bible says.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be one to say, you can't marry another guy, or you can't marry another girl. I would say, first of all, God.
Also, literally, the homosexuality line wasn't in the Bible. It was literally changed from a man cannot sleep with a boy. It was implying pedophilia. Like, it literally wasn't in the Bible until the 1930s or 40s.
God loves you.
Yeah, so specifically talking about like Prop 8. When Prop 8 came out, I was completely against it. I thought it was foolish and quite ignorant. And by many churches supporting Prop 8, we basically told the gay community that we don't care about you, we don't care about how you feel, what you think love is. We're just going to mandate that you can't marry who you say you want to marry.
We're adversaries.
Yeah, we became adversaries, and the church, I think, lost a great position in saying, in coming to people saying, like, we love you.
I do have to say, in California, I believe Mormons and like rich Mormons were really big in pushing Prop 8. Like, I kind of remember that, but I don't know everything. That kind of pissed me off when I learned it.
People should have the right to have sex with anyone they want.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Consensually, right?
All right.
Consensually.
With anyone? Okay. Yes. In the term anyone, except children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As humans, and as creatures of a divine spirit, we have the right to follow our instincts and our sexual urges without punishing ourselves for, wanting a woman or wanting a man. And so, yeah, anyone has the right to consensual love making.
So the reason why I stepped back, and you guys would agree with me, but when I was 9 years old, I was touched by a family member.
Yeah. Right? And it wasn't consensual.
And so, I can't step forward when that question is asked.
I completely
and I know you guys wouldn't agree with that, and that's, you preferred at the very beginning that, if as long as it's consensual and not kids, but that was my experience, and
yeah.
And you know what's crazy? It's so facilitated in religious places. Like, this kind of abuse is facilitated so much in Catholicism and Christianity, and there's very little punishment for priests and pastors who do this.
No, I resonate with that as well. I mean, I was as well, and it wasn't a family member, thank God. However, it was still enough of a tumultuous problem that even when I came out as a lesbian, I wondered if it had to do with that instant. It definitely brought up, and that's why it was the first thing that I said, because, one is innocent and doesn't know. Yeah. Absolutely.
I believe in a higher power.
Hell yeah.
I'd love to hear from your perspective why you believe in a higher power.
I mean, the household I was raised in.
I want to hear what the other person
the
has
analogy
to say.
of like one cannot see love, one cannot see air, and it's still there. And I started going to more clergymen and wanting to understand exactly my ways of being in the image of a greater creator, understanding I wasn't a mistake.
See, that's beautiful. Like, this kind of stuff is beautiful to me.
There is a higher source. There's definitely something that has given me these blessings that have nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the bigger picture of things.
I think for me, I was also raised in a very strong religious background. And just as I cannot deny this part of me that is the way I express love, I'd be dishonest if I said that when I sat down and I prayed and I listened, I didn't hear.
Oh, no, which is so interesting, because like there are so many people in the I almost said asexual community, in the LGBTQ plus community that are religious and they don't feel like they can be both LGBTQ and religious. Like, you literally can. There's nothing. It's just, it's really hard when, depending on what religion you're in, is telling you that you're inherently wrong.
For the heathen.
No.
You have to stop.
No. You are no mistake.
I literally love this person.
I resonate with some of the things you said too. Like, I do believe in a higher power. I just don't believe in like a typical higher power. And I also like highly believe in science. So I'm like, I believe in gravity as a higher power. I believe in like entropy as a, like things that are out of our control and stuff. And I want to always keep searching and always keep questioning and like always trying to find like as much love as possible, I guess. And I believe in other people's gods too. Yeah. Like, I believe in that for y'all, you know what I mean? Like, if that's what makes you a better person and makes you feel more yourself and feel more love, like, I believe in that, but I can't say that I believe it for myself because I don't know. I don't want to cast all my eggs in one basket. Yeah.
Guys, thank you. Friends, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Right. I'll get it out.
I'm so sweaty.
I like this video.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any other Jubilee things that you would want me to react to. But before I go, I just want to shout out my amazing Patreon, Lynn, for being my first Patreon. I'm so grateful to them. And if you want to check out my Patreon, the link will be in the description. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. If you like this video and want to see me react to another Jubilee video, it's gonna be right here. Watch me react to Do All Asexuals Think the Same right here.